Anybody here? Hi, I came on early. Somebody give me a thumbs up if... Oh, there we go. Hi, everybody. Okay. Hold on. Sorry about the mess behind me here. Hi. I didn't know if this was going to work, so I thought I should come on early just in case there was a big snafu. Just let me know. I'm going to watch the comments over here, but let me know if something's funky or you can't hear me or cat's going to attack me or something. So cheers, everyone. I hope everybody had a great day. Thank you for coming. This is like a little nerve-wracking because I don't want to like throw a party and have nobody show up kind of thing. So hello, everyone. Oh, thank you all for saying hi. Appreciate that. Yeah, the blue front door does match. Although this is a different, slightly different color. I forget what it is, but yes, this is now it's my husband's office. It's also the houseplant room. This is where all the houseplants winter. We used to have his office set up in the basement, and he didn't want to sit in the basement anymore, and I guess I don't blame him. So we just set him up in here. So I just want to say, if this works out good, we'll do this perhaps regularly. We'll just see how it goes. I know this time isn't great because this is like dinner time for a lot of people. But I was cognizant that I didn't want to go. There's a lot of other, hey, the small scape, hi, just down the road. I was cognizant that I didn't want to schedule this at a time when, because there are other people in the gardening community who do lives, YouTube lives, and I didn't want to go tromp on anybody's feet and do it at the same time or anything. So if we like this, we'll come up with a time that works. So anyways, hi, everyone. Hi from Michigan. Yes. Hi. I'm waving to you across the lake, Amy. Hi, Heather. Oh, you live in Wisconsin too. Thank you all. Who needs dinner when there's wine? See, there you go. That's why I love you, Broadway Gardner. That's fabulous. So we can make this into whatever you guys want. I thought we could I got some things we can chat about if we want to, but if you have questions about any of the videos that have come out lately that I haven't answered for you, or questions about gardening in general, I did see some questions come through earlier. So I'll just hit those up like right away. But guys, feel free to ask questions, or we can talk about whatever. It doesn't matter. Whatever you guys want to do. Okay. Before the live started, which I didn't actually realize you could put in questions ahead of time, so that's really cool. Janet asked, "Do you prefer bone meal or bulb tone fertilizer?" I don't think it matters. Probably bulb tone. I think there's some other stuff in bulb tone. So probably if I was going out and had to go buy something anyway, I would probably use bulb tone. But I don't plant my bulbs with a fertilizer because I believe, well, it's, when you buy a new bulb, they have everything in them that they need. So you don't have to go put extra fertilizer in. The fertilizer is really helpful for the next year. So, that fertilizer that's in there probably will help for... Dorothy's here. The fertilizer will probably help for the following year, and will certainly help. Do you want to say hi, Dorothy? It's dog dinner time, so this could be interesting. So anyways, what I was saying is, hi, Dorothy. She's got burrs on her head, so I didn't do that. So anyways, oh my gosh, this is attention deficit disorder Gardner here. What I'm trying to just spit out, if I could just slow down enough to finish a sentence, is that the bulb fertilizer is really helpful for after the first year. So you can put that on after they bloom. After they're done blooming, put that on. And then that will help them have better repeat performance in future years. Oh, Dorothy, you're really hamming it up here. Okay, let me try to hit some of these other questions. Let me just scroll back a little bit. Okay, Marnie is asking about hydrangeas. She says, "Are you at work, Marty? Or Mari? Sorry, at work. Good. That's what I like." 10 hydrangeas that didn't get in the ground in time, how should you overwinter them? So probably you're better. So right now, if they're sitting in containers, you're better off. You kind of have two options. One, you can throw them in the ground because I assume that your ground is not frozen yet. So you can either plant them in the ground if you know like where they're going to go. And that's a little iffy at this point, but they might be okay. You can heal them in the ground in their pots and then mulch on top of that. Like leaf mulch is really good for that. Or if you have like an unheated or very cool garage, you could stick them in there, but you just have to make sure to keep up on, you want to check them for water throughout the winter. Oh gosh, you guys, if I miss questions, you guys just keep bugging me. I'm going to try to scroll down here. Ants ate all my ferns and my coleus. Really? Ants ate your stuff? I don't really know what to say about that. I'm surprised by that because ants don't really eat plants. Sometimes if there is a bug on a plant, like some sort of insect, ants will go onto the plant to eat like the honeydew that the bugs leave behind. So sometimes ants are sort of blamed for another bug's issue. Garden Girl with a Y, I like it, says, I planted garlic for the first time this year. Do I need to add some mulch? You probably don't have to, but it doesn't hurt. I do. I add a layer of chopped up leaves on top of the bed. Karen Temple says, how often do you sail in summer? I sail. Well, this year was a little bit different because for those of you who don't know, I was a sailor before I was a gardener. So we do a lot of, mostly I race sailboats on Lake Michigan. So normally we have a big racing schedule, but this year, of course, a whole bunch of stuff was canceled. But we sailed locally. We have little buoy races. So we sailed locally every single weekend. We had our little COVID team, which was just our family. And that was it, which was not enough people, like not the same number of people we usually used to sail the boat, but it went well. So every weekend, basically starting in about mid-June through mid-September, basically. Oh, I see. Okay, so the person who asked the question about ants, she was talking about South America. And I'm guessing you got special kind of ants down there. So I can see that. And I don't have a lot of information to help you with that, unfortunately. Oh, Sherry Glasser, who left work early to be here, so gold star, says, what does the title Master Gardener actually mean? Did you take a course or volunteer? That's such a good question because there's so much confusion over that title. So the Master Gardener program is a program that is run through public university extensions. And each state has a slightly different program, but they're all kind of overseen by the same organization. So there are similarities to them. In Wisconsin, which will differ, and maybe if some of you are master gardeners, you can weigh in with what, with what your programs are like. But in Wisconsin, we have to take a course. When I took the course in like 2008 or 10, it was probably about a 14-week course. Then you have to take a test. But really what you are when you're a master gardener is that you're a master gardener volunteer. And I think the Master Gardener organization is trying to change the term to Master Gardener volunteer, because in order to remain a master gardener and truly become certified as one, you have to fulfill a certain number of volunteer hours. In Wisconsin, it's only 25 hours a year, but in some states it's like 100. So it varies quite a bit state to state. And then you have to take continuing education credits as well. So there's a continuing education component to it too. And Master Gardeners, the point of the Master Gardener program is not necessarily that you become, it's not a horticultural degree by any means. It's more about learning enough that you learn where to go for answers if you don't have them, so that you can kind of help and teach people. So you've got, a really good handle of the basics and a little beyond, but it's not equivalent to a horticulture program in any way. Okay, somebody asked, I might be skipping around here, but somebody asked, if I still like Deer Stopper 2 to deal with deer in my garden, I do. That is still the one that I like the best. In fact, I just bought a 2.5 gallon concentrate of it, which should hold me through at least through the middle of next summer. Yeah, Irene is doing the Master Gardener program through Rutgers, which is Laura from How's It Growing. Oh, there you go. See, you guys already saw each other. Laura, I know, just took that program, in spring, right, Laura? Bulb planting time for zone 7. It's kind of the same as everything. You want to do it when the ground is cool enough. I think they say when the ground is like 55 degrees or cooler, so you're probably getting there. And you can plant bulbs right up until you can't get in the ground anymore. So yeah, so Barbara says that in Michigan, you need 40 volunteer hours. I do think I went to the International Master Gardener Conference last year in Pennsylvania. And I know that when we were talking to people, Wisconsin seemed really quite low in terms of the requirements. There's a good question here about dahlias. So MEF says, do I really need to wait until after the first frost to dig up dahlias? No, you don't. But it's better if you do. So the whole thought process behind that is that by letting them get frosted first, it sort of helps some of those sugars, which are the nutrients, go back into the tubers. So you don't have to. It's not a requirement, but I think you stand a better chance of having your tubers be healthier and winter over if you do. Sometimes you can't, though. Catherine says, have you ever grown dahlias from seed? I haven't, and I probably should, being such a sorry, I dropped my coaster. Being such a dahlia nut, I probably should try that from seed. But the only reason I don't like growing dahlias from seed is that you don't know what you're going to get. So I kind of like to plan what's what. And if I had a Laura from Garden Answer, whole piece of property, like she got this year, which is amazing. Then I would try some dahlias from seed, but I sort of plan out because I plant them in the middle of my garden. So I want to know how tall and the color and the form that they're going to be. Okay, so Garden Girls, here I planted some heirloom tomatoes, and of the 10 varieties that didn't produce any fruit were Chernobyl and Orange Oxheart. I've grown that Orange Oxheart before, I think. I can't remember if it did well or not, though. So Nimrod, about the dahlias, as long as we're talking about that, Nimrod Kermayer says, when should I dig dahlias if I don't get a frost? You might not have to. If you are in zone 8 or warmer, you don't have to dig your dahlias. So you can just leave them in the ground and mulch a little if you want. I'm not even sure the mulch is that important. Hey, Laura from How's It Growing? Tell me, have you left dahlias in the ground in zone 7 before? I feel like I heard you say that once. If you have, let us know. Because I think sometimes if you have a mild winter and a whole bunch of mulch, you might be able to sneak by. But I'd be interested in knowing that. Okay, so more dahlia questions. So Mary Jo says, first time storing dahlias, my basement runs about 64 degrees. Is that too warm? It's kind of too warm. I think they'd probably be okay. Ideally, you want that down more in the 45 to 55 degree range. If you can find another place to put them, it might be better to store them there. If you can't, just find the coldest corner of your basement. So that's what I do is we have a little well room, and I stick them in the farthest corner of that well room, which is right against the wall, so it stays colder. Okay, have I missed any major questions? I'm still going through, but holler again. Cucumber beetles. Christy Earhart says she had cucumber beetles. Yes, I had that happen. In fact, and towards the end of the year, they popped up too. But a couple of years ago, you said you saw that on the blog, Christy. Yeah, I had one particular, what was it? Sirkin Dahlia. Got covered with cucumber beetles. Not a single other cucumber beetle or a single other dahlia was affected by them. Did somebody say that Yulia is here? If so, hi. Okay. Mary wants to know if I've ever tried overwintering peppers or eggplant and how do they do? I haven't tried. So Laura, did you guys see Laura from How's It Growing's answer about the dahlia? She says she left breakout in a pot and they actually came up beautiful. But she said they had 0 snow last year, which is not normal, which probably means it actually did better because snow generally acts as an insulator. So, okay. Okay, so Dolly wants to know what new Dahlias I'm getting. You guys, I haven't even thought about it. I can't. My brain is very much a one thing. And Yulia wants to know what everyone's drinking. I am drinking gin. You'll all be very surprised to know, with Fever Tree Elderflower Tonic, which I'm trying for the first time. Okay, I can't think about the dahlias that I'm going to grow next year when I still have to pull out the ones that I have in the ground. My brain is only capable of handling like one thing at a time. So I'm going to take stock first of what I have, because I don't think I can fit any more dahlias in. So if I'm going to add something new, I have to get rid of something else. So I have to really take stock, and the good time to do that is when I'm pulling them out, which I think I'm just going to do this weekend. We had our first frost a week ago today. I think I'm just going to pull them out this weekend and just get that project done with. I have a really ton of stuff to do in the garden this weekend. So Charlene says, is this my version of a plant room? It is. So these are the house plants I brought in, but you guys, this year I got so sick of so many plants that I actually turned on the grow lights in the basement and stuck like all my mangaves I put down there. All the plants that I don't like, my geraniums that I brought in, I put down there. The stuff that I don't think is particularly pretty to look at, I just stuck on the racks under lights. I don't know what's going to happen when I start seeds. We're either going to have to get more racks and more grow lights, or everything else is going to have to come up here. I have not tried Smallscape. I have not tried Belvedere Elderflower Rose Lemonade. I don't know what that is, but it sounds really good. Okay, Sheila Stromberg says that me and Laura and Yulia need to do the 40-question challenge going around garden channels. I don't know what that is. So can you tell me what that is? Because I don't know what that is. Spider mites on roses come back next year. I don't know. I mean, I think if you're in an overwintering place, would they? I mean, I guess spider mites can overwinter in the soil. So probably you want to make sure you clean up in the soil really well and see if that helps. I haven't had a ton of problems with that, except for the spider mites on those dahlias. But I haven't had a ton of problems with that. I think I would do a really good cleanup and hope that they won't come back next year. Tips for adding, Catherine says, tips for adding cut flowers to my other garden beds. Yeah, that's kind of how I do it, except for those beds in the vegetable garden, is I just incorporate stuff I want to cut. I think you just have to kind of plant them like any other plant, but plant enough of them that you don't mind cutting from. So for me, that's like ageratum, which I plant all over the place and just fill in with it everywhere. But I have so much of it growing that it's no big deal to chop a bunch off to stick in a bouquet. So I would say just plant more. Okay. Soil Margaritas, hello. Do I have horrible luck with Japanese beetles? So apparently Japanese beetles are sort of cyclical. So I think right now I feel like our areas had fewer problems with Japanese beetles. They weren't as bad for me this year as they have been in the past. Although there's also something, and I'm not sure if this is true, so I probably shouldn't say this, but I have heard that it depends how wet the summer before was, because of course they start their life cycle then and they become grubs and all that Japanese beetle garbage. So ours were a longer season of Japanese beetles, but not too terrible. But they do go after the roses immediately. And it is really a drag. And I have to tell you guys, that is one of those things that, like, once again, it's like roses again. And it makes me always question, are these roses really am I getting enough out of these roses to make it worth the extra steps that I have to take to keep them healthy? And 6 years ago, I swore off. I said, no more roses. And then I discovered David Austin roses and completely, went back on that. Green Thumbelina wants to know if I ever stored zonal geraniums dry root. I have not. I brought them in pots. The one in pot this year. We'll see how that works. I've never tried it before. Liam wants to know my favorite Astilbe varieties. I have only grown 2 types of Astilbes. I have no idea what the other one is, and Visions is what I planted this year. It was great, but I haven't grown enough to really have a favorite variety. Michael Bryan says, one time I grew a few pot plants on the floorboard of my truck. Seeds were apparently germinated by spilt beer. Well, that is a very fertile truck. Okay. So Coast to Coast Home and Garden says she wants to know if I've ever grown dahlias in containers. And the answer is yes. I do feel that the smaller growing varieties do better in containers than like the big dinner plates. I also think they're better suited for pots anyway, because those dinner plates, you just got to stake those things within an inch of their life, especially if they're in a pot and getting exposed from multiple sides. The ones that I have grown in pots are the smaller single varieties. You guys know that I love that Happy Single series of dahlias, but is it Bishop? The Bishop series is similar to that, and the Mystic series is similar to that. And I feel like those single varieties do better in containers, and they're better suited for containers because those things pump out flowers like crazy. So you always, with a container, you always want the flower, something blooming. And so I think you get a better show using those smaller ones. And I like those ones that have the dark foliage, because then you get another, that's a whole other texture and color in there. Oh, hey, Brad's here. Hey, Brad. You guys know Brad from Garden Evolution. He's having a cocktail hour in the garden live on Instagram at 7 p.m. Eastern time, right? So in 45 minutes, I think. So if you guys want to keep drinking after we're done with this, you can go check out Brad. Aaron's here. Is Aaron here? Hi, Aaron, if you're here. Aaron, and if you guys caught it this week, Aaron and Laura from Garden Answer were so incredibly generous to invite me to post a video on the Garden Highlights channel, which was great. And Aaron actually, I sent him an edit of the video and he spruced it up a little bit, which was really helpful. So if it's true that Aaron's hanging out here, thanks again, Aaron. Oh, okay. So Soil Margarita says, regarding one of your recent videos, I'm glad to know I'm not the only one that dislikes a certain type of plant. Yeah, I'm not a daylily person. I actually was shocked how many people agreed with that. I thought, you guys, I've actually been thinking about doing that video for a really long time, and I didn't do it because I'm like, I am going to catch so much heat for getting rid of a daylily. I actually, so I write a garden column for our community newspaper. And I am going to write a column, and I think I'm going to save it for winter because I'm trying to come up with ideas to write for winter. Here's my controversial opinion. I think the single most overrated plant in the United States, or at least this part of the United States, is the Stella d'Oro daylily. That thing is a dime a dozen in every Home Depot parking lot, every builder's model home. I can't stand it. Just my opinion. Aaron says I should turn on the super chat feature. I don't even know where that is, Aaron. I have no idea how to do this stuff. Laura says, Laura from How's It Growing says, how the heck do I reply to a person? Got me, Laura. Okay, Glenda says, do you keep gardening journals? I don't. Actually, that is why I started the blog in 2009, was because I was losing track of everything. And I thought I have to write this down. And I bought all the pretty books and nothing ever. And like, I thought I was going to have one of those. Have you seen those gardening journals where people sort of like draw little pictures and make these pretty notes? And I thought that was going to be me, but it's not me at all. It didn't work. I still have empty garden journals everywhere. So I didn't do that. So I started a blog instead, because I figured if I'm going to write this stuff down, I might as well just put it out there in the world and see what happens. Because if I have to write it down for myself, everyone else can take a look at it too. So in any case, that's my garden journal, is the blog, and now the videos. Yeah, someone tell me how I turn the super chat on, because I'm such a dork on this. I have no idea. Yeah, soil margaritas, YouTube is a great way to keep track of plants, except then you have to go back and watch the whole video. Ads too. Hey, Suburban Garden Couple. Thank you for coming. Yeah, Starla, you can't kill a daylily. And that's, I think, why we all have them, right? Because they are great plants for, growing something. But Carrie Sherry, oh, what a great name. She says, I love that you gave us permission not to like or use a plant. It took me a long time to get to the point where I was like, I don't like this plant. Just get rid of it. Because I was always waiting for the next best thing to come around before I'd pull it out. And so like when I pulled those daylilies out this year, it's because I've been meaning to pull those out for at least 4 years. And I just kept thinking, well, I'll find something. I still don't know what's going to go there. I just know that now I have to figure it out because otherwise there's going to be a big hole there. Let's see. Oh yeah, so Matthew says he loves the Siloam dahlias or daylilies, and I think actually Laura Laboudier, Garden Answer, I think in a Q&A this week said that she quite likes those too, and I have to say I've never grown those. So Laura from How's It Growing? Sorry, I have to keep specifying Laura's. Apparently, there's a lot of Lauras in the garden world. Says, do you want to plant my espalier? It's just like any other tree. Just plant it in the ground, Laura. You're good to go. Don't worry about it. She'll bribe me with gin. You can bribe me with gin anyway, but yeah, Brad says I'm going to end up putting a bunch of dahlias and a Cushiana in that spot. Actually, the other reason why the dahlias really had to go is that there's not really enough sun. Was not an appropriate amount of sun. And daylilies you can push because they're so not fussy, except for the part where you have to divide them constantly. So, that's not going to go there because I don't think those will work. So, hey, I just want to bring this up quickly because I saw something earlier too. So Lisa Morris says something about, I think it's supposed to be bare root planting. So yes, I actually have done a video on this last year, and maybe even written a blog post about it too. But bare rooting trees is a really good way to plant them. In other words, you get a containerized tree and you root wash them. You wash all of the soil off them. You turn them into a bare root tree and then you plant that. And the advantage to that is that they are 100% in your native soil then. So they don't have that thing where you're like a containerized plant has that soil that's growing in the container and then it has to like transition to what is around it. But it's super stressful. It is stressful on the tree. I think it's better for the tree long term. It's stressful for the tree in the short term. So you have to be really up on watering frequently. You have to be really up on watering frequently. You really want to do that. I mean, like in earlier spring, like when you get it in its dormant. I personally would not bare root a tree at this time of year at all, or even like a couple of weeks ago. I'd be really nervous about doing it for a fall planting, just because it takes those roots a while to recover from that stress. I do believe, and there's a fair amount of evidence from like even the Arborist Association has started talking about new ways to plant trees, that the long-term health of the tree is much better. So that's my thoughts on bare root planting. Karen says, do Odin and Dorothy ever dig in your garden? Nope. Smart dogs. We trained, Odin and Dorothy are our second sort of set of Newfoundlands. We trained our very first dog how to be a good dog around the garden. And I swear dogs tell the next dog. So we've always had overlaps in our dogs, and I haven't had to train much in the way of garden manners, except for Odin does a lot of plant watering, which is problematic. So yeah, the thrifted planter said you have to babysit that tree if you bare root it, and that is exactly right. You cannot slack. So you have to make sure that you're going to take care of it, because you're right, it will suffer. And in fact, a few years ago when I planted tiny tough stuff hydrangeas, I didn't do a video or post about this or anything, but I had 5 of them, and I bare rooted 2 of them, and I planted 3 in their containers. And however, they were actually in flower when I got them. So right now, well, first of all, I'll just tell you, 2 years later, I lost one, and it was one of the ones that I bare rooted. However, the other one that I bare rooted is actually bigger and puts out more flowers than the 3 that I planted that were containerized that I didn't bare root. This is completely anecdotal. It means nothing in the grand scheme of things, which is why I've never posted about it. But it was sort of an experiment that I did. But I did lose that one and have to replace it. Danielle, what's the most embarrassing mistake you've ever made in the garden? Yeah. Okay. So when I first started gardening, I might have told this story before, but when I first started gardening, I had when we moved into this house, and there were some established gardens, but I had no real idea what was what. So I had my mom come over all the time, who's a big gardener, and play is this a weed or a plant thing? Because you have to discover, you move into a garden, you have no idea what's going on, what's where. Because when we bought the house, we moved in June, so we had never seen any plants or anything in the garden. So my mom will come over and say, oh, that's a weed, that's a plant, whatever. Well, I looked at this plant, and it was this big flower stalk, and it was tall. It was maybe 2 feet tall with these beautiful purple bell flowers on it. And my mom said, that's a weed. And apparently, still being sort of a sassy daughter, I said, a weed is just a plant that you don't want. I think it's beautiful. She goes, okay, well, you go ahead and keep that. You do whatever you want. I eat those words every day because that was creeping bellflower, which is to this day the bane of my existence in this garden. It's terrible. It is the only plant I pull out Roundup for. So yeah, it's terrible. And then I found out that you can produce, I think each one of those plants produces 3,000 seeds, and they spread through rhizomes. So that would be the most embarrassing thing I ever did, was insist that I wanted that plant growing in my garden, and I pay for it every year. Let's see. Solana says, Aaron, you totally had me hooked on Dahlias. Good. You're welcome. I'm happy to feed the Dahlia addiction. Let me scroll down here because I think I might have missed some stuff. I do find, Amy Deed says, I wish Roundup worked on bellflower. I do find that it works. You have to do multiple applications. You have to do it at the right time. So you have to make sure that the outdoor temperature is the appropriate temperature. And the way I do it, because I'm very, very, very careful with that stuff, is I paint it on with a paintbrush. I actually buy those disposable foam brushes, and I put it in a little cup, and I go around and I paint the leaves of it, because I'm so afraid of that Roundup hitting anything else in this garden. So yeah, so that's how I do the Roundup for it. And it does work, but it takes at least 2 applications and sometimes more. Oh God, what a good question this is, Chelsea. What advice would you give your younger gardener self? Don't hang on to creeping bellflower. Listen to your mother. I would say don't get so hung up on what everybody else's gardens look like. And you guys know I preach this all the time, but that's where this comes from, is that you spend all this time going, oh, my garden's not as pretty as them, or you look at a garden. And I think it's great to get inspiration from other gardens. And it's my main source of inspiration is going to other gardens. But, you gotta love it. And if you don't love it, because, you don't make a garden to impress anybody else. You make a garden for yourself and for your family, for the people who live there. I mean, unless you're a professional gardener who's making a place, like a wedding hall, like Nick McCullough has, he's a professional designer. I mean, unless you're making gardens for other people, you only need to worry about yourself. So I would say worry less about what you're seeing in other people's gardens and worry more about like what you like. But the other thing is, and this is a little simpler, is stop buying plants in ones. Do not buy one of a plant. It took me a long time to realize that even buying 3 of anything is often not enough. Like you got to be thinking 5s, 7s, 9s. I mean, the new garden that I made is planted in much bigger sort of swaths. You guys know I've talked about that before. And in some of those cases, like I planted 20 cat's pajamas nepitas in essentially a big kind of undulating area. And I think that's about right. So if you have that, I mean, obviously you have to scale that down if you need to, but oh yeah, Steve from Natchez Glenhouse. Hi, Steve, by the way, says 1 is the loneliest number for plants. And boy, is that right. But you know, I want this. I wanted one of everything, but I didn't have much, you know, when you first start gardening, you know, I mean, we had just bought our house. We were, you know how that goes. You buy your house, you have no money, but you want a garden. So how are you going to make this work? And so I got a ton of pass-along plants, most of which I lived to hate, because pass-along plants are pass-alongs for a reason. Everyone has extras of certain plants for a reason. And 2, you know, I didn't have a design. Which is fine, I think. You can always move things around. But I just was enamored by everything I saw, but I couldn't afford to buy more than one, so I just bought the one. Yeah, Richard Cummings says, stop buying plants in ones. Seriously, the best advice. It took me a long time. I think everyone needs to maybe learn that lesson for themselves, because that's sort of what happens. Okay, so Sheila says she always buys one plant to see if it will survive. If not, I'll add more. Not a bad idea. Okay, so Mary's Garden Grow says, I know you like to edge your garden. I do. Well, I don't really like to edge it. I just like when it's got a clean edge. I don't really necessarily like to do it. How do you do it so it's not a tripping hazard? I don't know that I've ever had that problem. So I don't know what to tell you about that. I mean, a lot of times my plants are growing over the edge, so it's not like anyone's stepping in there, or they shouldn't be anyway. The dogs maybe. Brandon James says, does that apply to shrubs? I think in a lot of cases it does, especially with, you know, there's all these shrubs out there now that are these sort of more compact varieties. And I think that those a lot of times look great in a grouping too. Well, that's why I have like, you know, I have those tiny tough stuffs. I have 5 of those, and I have the tough stuffs on the west side of the house. And those I think I have 6. Speaking of tough stuffs, Amanda Wyatt says she planted 2 tough stuff red hydrangeas and both got leaf spot. Very bad. I don't know what to say about that. I wouldn't worry about it. See if it comes back next year. A lot of times that might have to be like a humidity thing or something. It could have been like an environmental thing. Don't worry about it too much. Just clean up the leaves when they drop. Oh, Joyce Flesher says beware of obedient plant. Yep. It's not obedient. Well, it's obedient. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that obedient plant is called that because you can sort of manipulate the flowers to bend around. I have had some of that at some point. Yeah, so Steve from Natchez Glen, you guys should check him out if you don't. Repeating and echoing flowering shrubs is, and then he does the little heart face. Yeah, yep, that's the key there. Oh gosh, I must have missed Aaron's question, but I take it that Aaron asked what my neighbors think about my social media presence. I don't think most of them know. I mean, they see me out there like walking around with a camera, like, what is Aaron doing all the time? I don't think most of them know. I mean, I know our neighbors to the east know, because I know that they follow me. But and actually our next door neighbors, they follow me too. But I don't know, but they're very, actually, I will say this. Our neighbors we're quite blessed with good neighbors. Our neighbors directly to our south are really nice, because I noticed that he'll look around and see if I'm out there with a camera before he turns on the lawnmower, which is really, really kind. Or he'll say, oh, are you going to be making any videos today? I think he's trying to figure out when he can mow his lawn, which is incredibly, incredibly nice. Laura says this is the best Friday night in a while. That's a sad state of affairs, isn't it? I think we're all there. Oh gosh. Okay, so Karen Neal says she purchased several rows of Sharon's at one time, and now you find volunteers constantly. Yeah, I want to get rid of all but one. Well, good luck. I don't know. Some roses Sharons are they don't do that here so much. I know they can be a bit of a pain. Nicole Martin says your neighbors have to know. I don't think they do. I mean, like I said, the people who are the two that are closest to us, but like our neighbors, I'm pointing over here as though you know where I am. Really nice guys. I think they just think I'm weird and I walk around with a camera a lot. Sheila Stromberg says, what is the size of our property? It's 1.3 acres. And about maybe half of it or a little less is actually like all is wooded. So I garden mostly around the house, and then we sort of have that creek that runs through there, and most of the woods is on the east side of that, and then we go over by the vegetable garden. I hope you guys are enjoying a cocktail. No one's even told me what they're drinking right now. I feel like I'm all alone in the drinking. Terry A says, are mice going to bother my dahlia tubes stored in the basement? Mine it's never been a problem. And I assure you we have mice because I've got a good for nothing cat who does not catch them. So it's never been a problem for me. Oh, Brad says he's drinking rum and Coke. Oh, okay. Twisted tea, orange juice, hot cider and bourbon. Tina Cruz, crazy girl. Beer, Prosecco. Wow. You're very cultured, Yulia. Let's see. Pinot Grigio. That's good. I'm never drinking alone when Broadway Gardner's around. God bless you, girl. By the way, I saw that Sullivan Owen is around. So hi, Sullivan. I just saw you flip by. Apple pie whiskey. I don't know what that is, but I don't know that I need that. Oh, hey, Greenie's Garden from Australia. Hi. Thank you. How nice that you came. 9:30 in Australia. Yes, you should be drinking coffee. You can't have a cocktail yet. I actually so Jennifer wants to know if she took her dahlias out too soon. You're fine. Nope, you're fine. Don't worry about that. You did okay. Irene says, being Italian, I'm drinking my wine. Amber wants to know if she should add some Jack to her Coke Zero. It's Friday. If I were to plant a garden in the UK, what would you plant based on our UK climate? Oh, you guys can grow so many things in the UK. It's so frustrating. Depends. I mean, it depends a little bit because I know there's a big difference. But okay, hang on. I have to look up the right name of this plant because one of the questions I get sometimes is like, what is the one plant that you would really like to grow but you can't? And I'm gonna look it up because I'm actually trying to figure out ways to plant this. Okay, so I'm looking this up. I think it's Dervilla or something. It's called, the common name for it is Angel's Fishing Rod. It's diorama. Here, let me. It's one way to, there. I don't know if you guys can see, it's kind of glary, but it gets these great flowers that just sort of drape over. I love drapey plants. That is a plant that is typically and commonly grown in the UK that I would love to grow. Brad wants to know what kind of Nicotiana I'm growing next year. Well, I will definitely grow Nicotiana, a lot of lime, because I just have to have that. I will still grow Langsdorffii. I hope I will get that sort of Langsdorffii a lot of combo that popped up this year from the saved seed. I really liked that Bella one that I planted. Now that's the pink one. That's a Mutabilis alata combo or hybrid. And I liked that one a lot. I did grow one called Starlight that I don't like it enough to grow that one again. And I don't know, there might be some other ones, but I'll grow those for sure. And I'm not sure what else. Yeah, see, Tina Cruz loves Angel's Fishing Rod too. I just don't. I think it's a zone. It's at least 6, and it might be zone 7. But I think it wants, if I'm not mistaken, it wants like super well draining soil. Like I don't know that. I mean, I have good draining soil. I just in zone 5. I think it's a nightmare waiting to be. Yeah, Laura says you made a hybrid Nicotiana, didn't you? And I did, and I love it. It was my favorite one this year. I'd like to keep making it again, but. Okay, so Tara wants to know where I purchased my Angelica gigas. I actually got that from our Master Gardener plant sale. However, check Annie's Annuals. They sell that one. Susan Whipple says it's 335 near Seattle, and I'm thinking of making a Bloody Mary. You have my permission. Has anyone ever stopped me to get my autograph? No. No. I only get recognized in, I don't get I think people have only said something to me like twice, and in both cases it's been at garden centers. And usually I'm walking around because I have my grubby gardening clothes, and a lot of those have the Impatient Gardener logo on, so probably like, what's the Impatient Gardener? Okay, so yeah, Yulia says if she was in the UK, would totally grow Jacksonia or tree fern. Tree fern, yes. Oh my God, tree ferns, like Monty Don and his damn tree ferns. I tell you. Jeannie wants to know if I've thought of using grains in my garden other than tall grasses. Yeah, Brie Arthur's, she's fabulous. Well, I do grow amaranth, so that's a grain. There are some very cool wheats out there. I should probably look into that more because I'm getting more and more into that. Yeah, so Steve from Natchez Glen says Angelica gigas is pretty easy from seed. In fact, it is very easy from seed because it seeds itself all over my garden. So if you buy, if you really want some, like right away, buy a plant and then buy a pack of seeds and plant them at the same time, and then you'll get the cycle going because they will self-seed. Very easy to pull out, not at all aggressive. Just plenty of it if you want it. Steve says he has a tree fern planter for this year, and I'm jealous. Let's see. Am I really impatient? Laura says, you seem quite patient. I used to be more impatient than I am. I used to be very impatient. And Mr. Much More Patient used to be much more patient than he is now. I don't know what's happening as we I'm still a pretty impatient gardener. You know how I get over the impatient part? I plant more gardens. And this is what I would say is if you find yourself being like, oh, I planted that plant, why isn't it blooming? And you're watching it all the time. The best way to avoid that is go start something else and focus on that. And then one day you turn around and you first plant, you're like, oh my gosh, look at how great it looks. So that's how I manage the impatient thing. So IG Muse says, did you design your home interior? No. So this house was built in 1934. It was an old cottage all along here. This was all cottages. Actually, when we moved in, the person who built our house lived next door to us. He was about 92 at the time. And we got to know him a little bit, and it was very cool to get to know him. But he built all the houses in this area, or parts of them. In fact, I didn't know this. He actually built, every once in a while I mention this, but we have a family cottage south of here that's on the lake, and it's very much a cottage. It's very bare bones. And that was built in the 50s. And so it was our neighbor who built the structure, but my dad and my grandfather finished. I think my dad was probably like a teenager. They basically did the inside of it. So that was, I didn't know that our former neighbor had a part of that. So anyways, no, we bought this house, but we did a major renovation in 2010. That's on the blog. That's back in the old days. But we cut the top of the house off and put it back on higher. And in the process, we've redone a lot of things like these ceilings in here. Those were always plank ceilings, but they were like pickled oak. So they were pink. And all of the walls in this house were skim coated with super thick, horrible texture. So we had all of the drywall in most places removed. In the hallway, I sanded it down. We're still finding dust from that. It's terrible. Let's see. Hey, someone just so we know here. So somebody asked Yulia if her parents grow anything different in their gardens, because if you guys watch Yulia, she's over at Why Do You Grow. Her family is from Russia, and I actually went to Russia and saw some gardens there. I was there in 1998 for work, and some of the best tomatoes I ever ate in my life were in Russia. Also, they know how to make a borscht. I also had to eat a lamb ear, I had to eat horse meat and a lamb ear. That was in Kazakhstan when we went to. It was a trip actually to Kazakhstan, but we made a stop in Russia to get on the Siberian Railroad to go to Kazakhstan. So we went to a big. Oh my God, this is the biggest tangent there's ever been. But I was there when I was working for a newspaper. Our sister city was Kokshetau, I think. I can't remember the name of it. Kazakhstan. And so we went there as part of there was a whole bunch of city officials going to see and I went there to go cover it. Anyway, we had to go to this big dinner with all the fancy people, and they brought out this lamb head, and they gave each person a part of the lamb head with like this really big, with this big spiel about why they were giving it to you. And it's really funny because there was a journalist from a competing newspaper who was there with me. Both of us went, and I can get along with anybody all the time. I don't care about competing newspapers, but she never really chilled out. They gave her the eyeball and we had been warned before this that you need whatever they do, you just have to kind of go along with it, because it will be seen as a big slap in the face if you don't go along with this, because this is a big deal. She gave her an eyeball, and they gave me the ear, and I'm like, I can totally eat a lamb ear. I am not putting an eyeball in my mouth, and she had to deal with the eyeball thing. The other thing that happened there was that they poured so much vodka, and we were told, like, you really have to be respectful. And I just knew that if I was envisioning myself like dead from alcohol poisoning if I kept drinking vodka. So I sort of faked it. And one lady got really mad at me. That's what I remember about that. Okay. And now that was a total random tangent. I'm sorry, you guys. Okay. So I'm just going to back up and try to grab some of these other questions that happened. Okay. So John Platt says, you're in Wisconsin, right? Shouldn't you be at a fish fry tonight? Yeah, I should be, but COVID's. In case you weren't familiar with Wisconsin tradition, pretty much everybody goes out to a fish fry on Friday nights. And at that fish fry, every person on the planet will drink what is essentially the official, this is beside me, I hate these. The official sort of Friday night drink of Wisconsin is a brandy old-fashioned sweet. So that's not like a regular old-fashioned. Ask Nick McCall about this. We made him have a Wisconsin old-fashioned when he came to speak to our Master Gardener group in February. And Fergus Garrett too. And they're like, what is this? It's brandy, which, as you know, is pretty sweet anyways. And then they put like 7-Up or Sprite as the top on it instead of seltzer. And then there's oranges and cherries in it. But I used to be a bartender in college. Summers in college, I was a bartender at the famous fish place in town, and Smith Brothers. In case anyone's from around here, Smith Brothers, which is where everybody went. And I would make easily 400 brandy old-fashioned sweets on a Friday night. Okay, Mr. Rogers Trolley says, I keep finding Zone 5 perennials that I want, but I'm in West Central Wisconsin, Zone 4B. Are zones a hard and fast rule when it comes to perennials? No, they're not. And especially, I would say, you're always going to, I zone push kind of frequently, but you have to always be prepared that you might lose them. With a perennial, it might not be that big of a deal because you might just be like, well, it's, it is what it is. But what I would say is that pay attention to microclimates in your yard. So I know that like in that strip where I grow the dinner plate dahlias along the house, that could be even like I've had zone 7 plants survive in the ground there. So pay attention to microclimates and try to look to plant those plants that are a zone higher than you in sort of microclimates in your yard, and then just mulch the crown of those. Just mulch the crown of those, and then hopefully they'll make it through. But I wouldn't go spend a ton of money on a plant that was zone pushed. Although I did spend a ton of money on Venus dogwood, which had a really good run until it didn't. Chase Grooms, where do you buy your plants at the most? I have several local garden centers that I like to shop at. So that's usually where I go. He says, he or she, sorry, says, I see that you with a lot of Proven Winners plants. The Proven Winners is sort of headquartered in Michigan. So they have really good coverage here in Wisconsin. So that's often what you find. I will say Proven Winners also has a pretty generous testing program that they send out to garden writers. So they do send, this year, they probably send, I don't know what it is, maybe a dozen plants a year. So I do get a chance to test out new plants for myself. And that's, if I really like those, then I go out and buy more of those because I've tested them. Green Thumbelina, hang on, I need to go grab something to drink. You go. Garrett Tooth says I grow native plants. Yep, that's awesome. I'm making a conscious effort to do more of that. Garrett, you should definitely follow Yulia. Why do you garden? If you don't, because she's great at native plants. So Yulia says, I'm so sorry about the lamb ear. Yeah, me too. Have I gardened in other climates? I have not gardened in other climates. I'm a Wisconsinite. I grew up 12 miles from here. I moved away for a time. I just didn't garden in those places when I moved there. I feel like they played a board style joke on you. They probably did. I think it was also maybe like, how far can we push this kind of thing? Okay, so J Fox says you should do a houseplants video because what you have behind you looks beautiful. Do you know why these plants look as good as they look right now? Because I just brought them in for winter. If it weren't for my plants being able to go outside for summer, I would have no houseplants. I'm terrible with houseplants. Garden Girl says, where do you get your sweet peas? A whole bunch of places. I used to order from England, but now there's better sources in the US. I do get some from Floret. Sweet Pea Gardens, I think is the name, but there's a new kind of smaller grower who I got some really good varieties from. Select Seeds often has some good varieties. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones. Those are the ones that come to mind right away. Okay, so Mary's Garden. So after our small Wisconsin Stout, I watched some. Okay, it was featured in an episode of Around the Corner with John McGivern, who's sort of a local celebrity. I watched you on some old episodes on YouTube, and I saw you in one on Around the Corner. Yeah, I actually was on Around the Corner with John McGivern. That's funny, but it was not related to gardening. It was related, just so in case you guys are curious. This is a local PBS show where they go to a community. It's a comedian actor, local celebrity, who goes to a community and tries to find out what the best things in those community are. Anyway, I was on that for my work stuff. Adam Dale says, have you ever considered keeping bees? Yep, I would love to do it. Mr. Much More Patient is not a fan, and I have to pick my battles. And I've told him they don't attack you. They have to do whatever. I'm not making much headway. Nancy Michael says, what are my favorite plant mail orders? You know what? I have a post on the blog. If you go to the blog, theimpatientgardener.com, and you type in like mail order plants, this past year I did a report on every mail order place that I can think of that I've ever ordered from, that I have a recollection of ordering from, and how that experience went. So look for that post. And a few years ago, I did like every time I got an order, I did kind of like a analysis of the order. So you can see some things there. Sort of depends what you're ordering. Okay, so Sullivan says she got some pretty sweet peas from Uprising Organics. Thank you for that. I have ordered from Uprising Organics before, but I have not gotten sweet peas from them, so I will look for that. Okay, Sherry says, what temp do you feel comfortable taking out the temporary greenhouse for potted up dahlias? So you mean like putting potted up dahlias in the temporary greenhouse? Just to fill everyone in, I have one of these pop-up like plastic greenhouses. And I use that to harden off all my seedlings and also to put in, I pot up my dahlias early and I put them in there. I don't know. I'm trying to think if I know what the temperature is in there when I do it. I mean, I just sort of know that I start my dahlias on about mid-April. And once they sprout, I put them out there. So in most cases, it's about 2 weeks to sprout at least. So that's end of April. I would say that, certainly if it's still freezing temperatures, that's a no-go. Because that is not, that no dahlias will tolerate that. So I think I probably look for nighttime temperatures to be consistently in the high 30s, but mostly like low 40s. This year I did put a little space heater out there at night to take the edge off. It helped a lot. I'll do that again. Yeah, see, and Yulia, it sounds like Yulia does pretty much the same thing. Tessa says how to trim Russian sage. This is a good question because we had a whole bunch of Russian sage here when we moved in, planted where I grow the big dahlias now. And I believe that with Russian sage, you're supposed to, you know what, I don't want to, let me look into that because I remember I was doing it wrong for a while. I think you're supposed to do that in I don't want to say the wrong thing. If anybody else has a good answer for that, let me know because I don't want to say the wrong thing and give bad advice. I know that I looked it up once. Is Mr. Musford more patient ever in front of the camera? Pretty much no. He doesn't get into it that much. He likes to be anonymous. Let's see. Karen with the Y. What plant did you end up spending a lot of money on but it ended up dying? Oh, Japanese maples. I could buy a lot of plants for the amount of Japanese maples that I have killed. They're tough. They're really tough in this zone. So Chelsea has a really good question. Says, would you ever consider a larger, more permanent cold frame or greenhouse? I would love it. I can't figure out where it would go or where I'd be willing to give up the space for that. And I know that greenhouses are a lot of work because you really have to keep them really, really clean. But it's always sort of been out there. I think I would really like that. I just don't know quite where it would fit. And the problem is that I briefly thought about trying to get a greenhouse over by the vegetable garden. Getting power over there is a major problem because it's actually not connected to this property because we have this creek that runs through it. So we have to get power, which I'm sure is possible, but we'd have to get electrical over water or underwater or something. So Tina Cruz says, you need to do once a month or more garden cocktail conversations with the impatient gardener. I'm up for doing these. If you guys want to keep doing this, we got to find what time works best and probably try to make it a regular thing. Joanne says, have you tried David Austin roses? Yes, I have 6 Alnwick roses. Alnwick. I say Alnwick all the time. People correct me. This year I planted 2 in containers called Fighting Temeraire. Those might be my favorite roses ever. So I love them. They're beautiful. They don't have any more problems than any other rose. Frankly, probably less. So there are roses with scent, I would say. Are just a little bit higher maintenance than other plants, and it just is what it is. But most of the time, it's worth it. Hey, Terry says, how's the Oregon grape doing? Good. It looks much healthier than when I planted it. It was pretty rough looking when I planted. It was the only one I could find. For everyone who doesn't know, last January, it turned out that Oregon, that was a big joke in the video. I say it wrong every time. Oregon and Wisconsin were playing each other in the Rose Bowl. So just out of the blue, I sort of challenged Laura to a bet, and it turned into a thing. But the bet ended up being that the loser had to do a video on a plant of the winner's choosing. And Laura was incredibly generous and gave me Mahonia, Oregon grape, or Oregon. Oh my God, I still say it wrong. Oregon grape. So I planted it. It's a cool plant. It was hard to find though. I don't know why it's so hard to find here. It's hardy here. It's a really cool plant. It's super deer resistant. In fact, I have hostas near it. All the hostas have been bitten to the ground, but no one's touched that. So I don't know what the problem is. Yeah. So Steve from Natchez Glen, who knows his roses, especially, and a lot of other things, says the David Austin roses are really vigorous and no one should be scared of them. So there you go. He's an expert. Mary's Garden Girl says winters in Wisconsin are so long. It'd be great to have more of these live Q&As. Girl, I hear you. Casey, hey Casey, says, where'd that go? I think she said, what's the hardest part of making videos for YouTube? The editing. It's two parts. It's the time, because it takes so long to do everything else that just sometimes I just feel like I'm perpetually behind in the garden because I'm trying to make a video at the same time. But the editing, I'm getting better at it. But, I get frustrated. I think everyone does. I get frustrated with technology when it can do something, but you can't figure out how to make it do that. So I'm learning and I'm getting better. But that's where it gets tough. So, but for instance, I think I said this on Instagram last weekend, like in fall when I can't garden during the week because it's either dark or miserable by the time I get home from work. On the weekends, I do one day for just gardening and one day for making videos. And I constantly feel like I'm just running around like crazy trying to get everything done. And I try to shoot like at least 2 videos on the same day so that I've got videos for the week and then I can just kind of edit them. But the editing takes me longer than it should, partly because I do it laying on the couch and I usually fall asleep about halfway through. Let's see, what else did I miss here? Oh, okay. Laura says, how's it growing, Laura? Says, what's my number 1 favorite flower? Well, I think the obvious answer is Dahlias, probably. Clematis is way up there, too. Coast to Coast Homelingar says, don't even get me started on color grading. I'm just like delving into the world of trying to figure out how to be better at color grading. I'm trying to become better at editing videos and shooting videos, you guys, because I'm trying to justify the purchase of a new camera at the end of this year. But I'm not allowing myself to do that until I get really good, better at using the stuff that I have. See, Aaron says he's a text away. See, I can't, you guys, I will just say this is going to sound like sucking up, but Aaron has been helpful to me since I had about 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, if that. I reached out to him to ask him a question ages ago, and he helped out immediately. So I will just say, just extremely generous people to share their time and talent. Marilyn M says, what's my day job? I'm an editor of a magazine about sailing. It's called Sailing Magazine. Sheila says, have I ever thought about hiring someone to help me with the editing? I have. I don't know. First of all, in order to make hiring somebody to help me with the editing make sense, I would have to produce a lot more videos, because at some point, like, I'm not going to spend money, right? So, lose money on the deal. So I'd have to up my production, which I think I could if I hired an editor, but I have a hard time even when I'm not great at stuff, I have a hard time not controlling it. It's a character flaw. I mean, my main thing boy, this is going to be an insider tip, so hold your horses. My main thing when I'm editing a video is not showing my butt. And I just don't trust that anybody else is going to make it a point not to show my butt, because you wouldn't believe how many times I edit my butt out of a video. So there's that. Let's see. Okay, Lynn Castile Butler says one of her favorite magazines. Thank you so much. I appreciate that a lot. Anna says, how did you learn to garden without YouTube? I'm a new gardener. I've learned so much from you and Garden Answer. Boy, videos are just the thing, right? Aren't they super helpful? Books. I love books. You guys, I have so many gardening books. It's crazy. It's what I don't read them during the summer, but in winter, it's like me and all my gardening books and all my gardening magazines all around me. Vintage Gardener says, maybe a better camera will get you to do more videos. That sounds like justification, and I'm here for it. Solana says, Aaron, what mic do you use? Do I have it here? Hang on. I have it here. I use mostly I have half of it here. I don't know if the other half's on the camera. I use mostly wireless lavalier mic. So it's the Rode Link. Ironically, this is the mic. This is what I wrote to Aaron about at Garden Answer. What I wrote to Aaron about at Garden Answer originally ages ago. And he recommended this one. So that's what I bought. Just recently, I've also bought a Rode. Where's that? Oh God, you guys, everything is all over the house. I brought a Rode mic, like a shotgun mic, because I needed it to do that video with Peter Wakefield. So I bought that. I haven't used it much for videos, but I have that too. So I will just say, in my opinion, mics are more important than cameras, because I think bad audio bothers me. When I watch a video, bad audio bothers me more than bad video. And I know, like, the video I posted of the bulbs, one of those shots was super out of focus. That's my biggest problem, is that a lot of times Mr. Much More Patient isn't available to, I mean, sometimes he pinch hits, but mostly it's just me and my that tripod. So a lot of times I have to like hit the camera and then like flip the screen down and like try to make it focus in the right place. And sometimes the focus is off. Okay, so Charlene Caesar's birthday. Happy birthday. Since today is my birthday, what kind of gardening stuff do you usually put on your birthday wish list? My birthday is in January, which for a gardener is first of all, January birthdays kind of suck because everyone's done. Everyone's had Christmas. No one's interested in any sort of celebrating in January. Also really sucks because you can't buy anything gardening related in January. So, however, if I were shopping right now for a birthday, tools. Best birthday gift for a gardener is tools. Good tools. Spend more money on good tools, buy them once. What else would, I think plants, gift certificates to nurseries. Is that lame? I just want all the plants and all the tools. Let's see. Okay, so Laura says the Victory Garden, old school. Is that where you learned to garden? That is old school, but it's good stuff. Let's see. When did I start loving Newfis? Oh, that's a question from Starla. That's a great question. I had a dog in high school that was supposedly, it was supposedly a mix between a golden retriever, which was its mother, and supposedly a border collie. This dog ended up being 110 pounds with webbed toes. And I'm still convinced to this day that dog that they thought was its father was actually a Lancier Newfoundland. Anyways, he was a great dog. I loved him. He had the best temperament. And so a lot of people would say to me, is that a Newfoundland? So I looked into Newfoundlands, and just discovered that they have the best. I mean, I'm all about the temperament, and they always, I'm getting down a rabbit hole again here, you guys. But they say with Newfies, if they don't have a good temperament, they're not a Newfoundland. That is the hallmark of the breed, is a really sweet, it's that gentle giant thing. So we got our first Newfoundland in, his name was Hudson. I think that was 2004. We brought him home. And the other thing they say with Newfoundlands is that they're like potato chips. You can't have just one. So we got another one, and that was Rita, 18 months later or less than that. And then Hudson died, so then we had the overlap going from there. So we've always had two, and we've had two sets now, two sets of Newfoundlands, but we've always done boy, girl, boy, girl. I think we're going to go to all boys after this because, well, there's a whole bunch of reasons, but I think we're going to all boys at some point. Okay. You guys, I have to tell you, this is really weird. I see you guys all talking to Aaron Lamoutier, and I have yet to see a single comment from him. So Aaron, if I'm ignoring you, I swear to God, I'm not. I'm just not seeing any of your stuff go by. I need like a comment watcher. Let's see. Sorry, I'm scrolling through. Lisa Mason says, do I have any water features in my garden other than the creek? No, I have that stock tank pond in the vegetable garden, but that's it. Oh, John Platts. This is a good question. Do I listen to music while I garden or podcasts? Podcasts or audiobooks all the time. I always have my earbuds in. I like get into the zone. So it's always either podcast or an audiobook. I hardly ever listen to music in the garden. I like to listen to music with other people. That is really weird. Sharon Glasser says, Lewis and Clark had a Newfoundland on their expedition. Yes, his name was Seaman. SEA. Get your heads out of the gutter. Yeah, Debbie Jack says she had a black lab golden retriever that looked like a Newfie. Yeah, I would say that's how Hudson looked, kind of. Anna Hoffman says, what podcast? Okay. Oh, somebody said A Way to Garden. Absolutely. If you guys aren't following Margaret Roach, she's like my gardening idol. I would say of like living garden legends. Margaret Roach is right up there. Okay, let me go to shows. Okay, so I'm just going to start going through some of the podcasts that I have in my thing here. Ask Me Another. Got to listen to that every week. Garden Fork. Do you guys listen to Garden Fork? Eric from Garden Fork. He has this like eclectic DIY show. I'm on his podcast pretty regularly. I think we just recorded a show this week. Grow What You Love. Sometimes I like the true crime podcast too, so I get into those. A Way to Garden, that's Margaret Roach's. Natchez Glen House podcast stories. Make sure you listen to Steve. Office Ladies. Do you guys ever listen to that? That's the Office like recap one. Plant Rama. That's CL Fernari and Ellen Zakos. That's quite good. Pop Culture Happy Hour. What else do we have here? Oh, Car Talk. I listen to Car Talk every week, even though they're like ancient. The Garden Angeles, I listen to them sometimes. Joe Gardner Podcast. Super good information on the Joe Gardner Podcast. Let's see. Wait, don't tell me. Listen to that. And I always listen to the Young House Love Podcast, but they haven't had a podcast for like a long time now. Let's see. Growing a Greener World. Yep. That's a Joe Lample thing. Yeah, Stephanie Statnick. Sorry. Monty Don's garden books are great. I have most of them, I think. In fact, I just got for a review copy, I just got his book, Gardens in America. Vintage Gardener says, have you ever listened to the You Bet Your Garden podcast? No, should I check that out? Hey, Reg. Now you guys know Mr. Much More Patient's name. He can't hear me though. Rich. Can't hear me. I was going to have him get that book for me. If I could get Mr. Much more patient, I would have him here. Should I text him? Our house is small, you guys. There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to hear me. Our house is like 1,200 square feet, which is fine. It's just us and the dogs and the cat. Okay, I'm texting him. We'll see if he answers. Okay. Hey, Emmanuel's here. Hey, Emmanuel. Lisa says, could you post a list of garden-related podcasts? Great idea. I will do that as a blog post soon. That's a really good idea. This Richard says selective hearing. Totally. Oh, John Lord's Secret Garden. You guys if you don't watch John Lord on YouTube, you have to. That guy's insane. I want him in my garden because he just like flits out, like he has unlimited energy. He just flits around and he like looks at it like a plant looks at him sideways. He's like, get the shovel and get it out of there. Sally says, do you have any children? I don't. Rose wants to know what my favorite gin is. I don't know yet. I'm still sampling them all before I find out. I quite like Botanist. Right now I'm drinking the I don't know, another botany one. It's pretty good too. I like Hendrix quite a bit too. Yeah. Somebody says John Lord just yanks his stuff out. I mean, I do love the fact that the guy just runs around and he looks at sideways, like throws his shovel in the ground and he's off with it. I mean, I don't know. I think he'd be fabulous. Oh, someone brought up Charles Dowding. Hey, Odin, come here. Someone brought up Charles Dowding. He's amazing. Yeah, he's fabulous. Hey, he's great. Here, you guys. Here's Odin. The only reason they're paying attention to me is because I feed dinner. What? So this is our big guy. Yes. Have I ever listened to Kathleen Madigan, the comedian? I have. I seem similar. I don't know. I'll have to listen to her again. I never thought about that. Oh, yeah. Laura says that Monty tweeted me, and he did. So in case you guys are wondering what the high point of, oh my gosh, Odin, goodness gracious, man. In case you're wondering what like the high point of, I guess my year was, is that I wrote a blog post about the American Gardens, Monty special on American Gardens. And Monty shared it on Twitter. So pretty much just died. Oh yeah. The massive spider plant. Let me tell you the story about the massive spider plant. This massive spider plant right here, I bought the day I moved into college, which was a long time ago. I went to school in Madison at UW. And if you know Madison, Wisconsin, they have an amazing farmers market on the square. Capitol Square goes around the Capitol building. And I went there the day I moved in and I bought that spider plant and I put it in my dorm room. And that spider plant has been with me ever since. And I would leave it at school during Christmas breaks. I moved to New Zealand for a year and left it with my brother and sister-in-law who put it on their unheated front porch, like enclosed but unheated front porch, where it fell off a table and laid on the ground for what I assume was several months. It's been abused. It's been so abused. And so don't tell it, but I don't really like it. It looks good because it just came in from summering outside. So that's why I have that spider plant, because it's stuck with me through all that mistreatment. And it's, I can't possibly get rid of it. I just can't. I'm not super sentimental about plants, but I'm sentimental about that plant. And I'm sentimental about the ficus tree that I have, which came from my grandma's house. Tina says she went to Wisconsin. Go back. Oh, hey, what the hell is this Badger game start? It's on tonight. Oh my God. Do I ever talk to my plants? I probably swear at them. I'm not sure. No, KK says it's a mix of variegated and non-variegated. It's not. It's just your basic. It's the most. Can I get you closer? It's just the most basic spider plant there is. I do have like an all green one that's really pretty. It's still outside. I'm not sure if I'm bringing it in, and it hasn't died yet, so I still have to make that decision. Let's see. I swear at the wind in North Dakota. Yeah, I have a friend who lives in North Dakota who says the wind is just terrible. Rachel says she's going to bed. She's in the UK. Thank you for coming. All right. What else? So Tessa says she didn't love Monty's special on American Gardens. That's interesting. I found it really interesting to see the perspective of an outsider, sort of an outsider. Couple of questions. Jeannie says, do Newfis drool a lot? Sort of. I mean, I don't even notice it anymore. To me, the far more difficult thing to manage with Newfis is the hair. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Even when they're not like officially shedding or blowing their coats, it's just everywhere. So yeah, they drool, and especially Dorothy has really loose lips. So a lot of water just sort of falls out, but the drool doesn't bother me at all. I just don't even notice it. I know when like a neighbor comes over and they pet them, like they'll walk away with like a big drool smudge on their pants. And I'm like, ooh, hope they don't see that. Yeah, Great Pyrenees are the same. I love Great Pyrenees. They're a totally different kind of dog because they were bred for something else entirely, but they still have that same gentle giant temperament, I think. Let's see what else we got on here. Oh, somebody asked another question I was going to go back to, and now I lost it. Oh, do I trim my ficus tree? Yeah, I had to because it got huge. In fact, it's not in this room because it's taller than the ceiling in here, so I can't have it in here anymore. So it's in the living room on the west side where it doesn't get a ton of light, but I have to put them on yet. I got clip-on grow lights that actually point up, which is not exactly the best scenario, but it's better than nothing. I also trimmed it because it was getting really sparse, and I wanted it to thicken up. So I trimmed it. Well, this year I trimmed it in probably maybe late June. A couple of years ago, I trimmed it like in winter, which is not the right time to do it just because I couldn't stand it anymore. But like late June is when I trimmed it. And I should probably have trimmed it harder. It's really big. Okay, what else? We're going to wrap up here shortly because you guys don't want to listen to me all day. Do I mulch up any of my hydrangeas? Nope. I mean, other than throwing some compost on, I don't. Oh, hey, Dina says, thanks for introducing me to Wakefield Handmade. I'm so glad Peter's just a genuinely nice guy. And make sure you go to Laura at How's It Growing's YouTube channel too. She did a couple of videos with Peter. He made her these really cool rhubarb forcers. So check that out. Janice says, where do you buy your Dahlia bulbs? I have a few sources. So I start at Longfield Gardens. Now, full disclosure, I want to let you guys know that I bought from Longfield Gardens for a long time. But now I'm doing a bit of a partnership with them. So I should let you know that. But I was a customer before we ever got into any kind of business relationship. I like them because they're very affordable and they have a good selection, and I've been happy with them. Now, I am going to tell you that everybody I know who got Cafe au lait from Longfield Gardens this year ended up with Red Labyrinth. This is pretty common. I've had it happen with almost everyone I've ordered bulbs from, except for very small growers. So it is not uncommon to get the wrong tuber. They all look the same. But it's disappointing because you planned something else. By the way, Red Labyrinth is a cool dahlia. I never would have bought it otherwise, so it's actually kind of a happy accident. Then I go to sort of your smaller dahlia growers for the ones that I really want. So Triple Wren Farms. Oh, who are the other ones? You guys remind me who else I bought from. There's some other smaller. I also go, if you guys follow Santa Cruz Dahlias on Instagram, you can't buy bulbs from her, but she's a dahlia breeder, but her tubers are available through some other smaller growers. Those are good. Her dahlias always start with KA, so it's KAs, whatever. This year I grew KAs Rosie Joe. So sometimes you have to look for some of those. What else? So that's kind of where I go. Eden Brothers has good selection and good prices, but I've not personally been thrilled with the quality. And one year they screwed up really, really bad on the varieties, so I got a little miffed about that. Swan Island Dahlias is sort of the that's where people who are like dahlia breeders or like dahlia people who show dahlias often buy from Swan Island. They have huge selection, really good tubers. They're a little bit pricier than everybody else, but they do have a deal where they give you like some free tubers if you spend X amount of money. So that's good. Hey, Laura says that Longfield is replacing her mistake order and the customer service was good. I'm really happy to hear that. That's fabulous. Yeah, a couple of people asked about Swan Island. Yeah, they have great stuff. And pretty much you're going to find what you need there in most cases. Let's see. Oh, Coast to Costa, they did a video tour of their farm. Oh, I would like to do that. I want to go to a dahlia farm. Closest thing I have to a dahlia farm is my patio. Let's see. What else we got? I don't know. All right. I think I've gotten most of them. Oh, yeah. Here, Charlene says there's always Newfie hair around. Yeah, you just have to. Oh, here, I see one other question. I'll make sure to answer that. Yeah, you just, with Newfies, the hair is part of the deal. And to me, it's a far bigger deal than the grooming. You have to, these are not washing your dogs, but they're worth it. Okay, so KK Swagan says, do you have any tips for repelling deer? And she wants to know how I met Laura from Garden Answer. Repelling deer. Deer repellent. I just use spray on deer repellent. I use the Messina's Deer Stopper 2 in a concentrate form. I got a new backpack sprayer. I put it in there. That's my main way that I do it. There are some things I just won't grow because I know it's a foregone conclusion that they'll decimate them. Obviously, I've got the fence. Obviously, your best scenario for getting rid of deer is a fence, but that's not possible for most of us, probably. So if you keep on top of the deer repellent and you reapply it, it should last through like a regular rain. But if you get like a really heavy downpour or several days of rain, you got to get out there almost instantly and reapply it, and it gets boring, but there's no option for me. That's it. I don't have an option. So that it's either that or not grow plants or some plants. How did I meet Laura from Garden Answer? Basically through Aaron, actually. I told you guys this. I reached out to Aaron to ask him these questions to help me out with buying some gear, and he was extraordinarily helpful. And we sort of had talked on occasion about various things, and that's that. So I got to know both of them. Let's see. Laura says she did not have good luck with bluestone this year. Actually, same thing. My mom ordered a bunch of stuff and got terrible plants from them. I think it was such a tough year for growers to keep up. The demand was so enormous that people, I think they just couldn't manage it. And I think like really big places like Bluestone got behind in their orders. And I think in a lot of cases, they were shipping out plants that were younger and more mature than they normally would have. And Bluestone sends out pretty small plants to begin with. They're good. They're just small. So I think that led to a lot of disappointment this year. Okay. I am going to wrap it up because I gotta make dinner. If you guys want to know what I'm making for dinner tonight, I will tell you. I'm not a great cook. I'm a good baker. I'm not a great cook. If you go to a website called Alexandra Cooks, here, look at me. I could actually like type stuff in, you guys. I haven't been. Alexandra Cooks. Books.com. I actually found her through Margaret Roach. Margaret Roach has had her on her podcast several times. She's got great recipes. And so she has a recipe on there. If you look for a recipe, it's called tomato galette. And I made it several times this year. And it was really good. But we're obviously out of tomatoes now. But I do have a ton of butternut squashes that I grew. You guys, I grew that baby butternut squash again this year. That is the ticket. If you don't have to feed a ton of people and don't need a giant butternut squash, these things are perfect for 2 people. So I made this actually last week and I'm making it again now. So it's just a galette, caramelized onions, diced butternut squash, Gruyere cheese. All on. I just do like a Pillsbury pie crust, roll it out a little bit to make like a galette, where you sort of fold the sides in the oven. And then on top of that, when it came out of the oven, I just did a quick saute in a pan of some kale, threw that on top, and then I toasted some pine nuts. So that's what we're having for dinner tonight. It was really good, and it's really easy. So thank you for coming. Thank you, everyone. I literally thought I was going to throw a party that no one showed up to, and I've had that happen more than once. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Do me a favor, and if you guys follow me on Instagram, send me a note if there's like a time that you think would be like best. Because I would love to. I'm all for doing this on the regular. I just don't know if this is a good time or should be looking at other times. I mean, obviously I work like a weekday during the day is not going to happen because I'm working. And sometimes weekends can be a little tough. But in terms of like middle of the day, but let me know what works and we'll see if we can figure out a regular time and we can do this all. I can't say thank you enough. I didn't mean to be on here as long as I was, by the way. I can't say thank you enough to everybody for coming and saying hi and contributing to the conversation. So, and if you guys you still want to keep talking to gardeners, go to Brad at Garden Evolution is doing a Instagram live right now, I think. So go check out him. Anyway, thanks everybody. This was so much fun. I enjoyed talking to you and let's do it again. Bye everybody.